you guys, times have changed. When I started this channel, I want to say way back in the day, if you can call it that, it seemed to be all about big power, peak power numbers on the dyno. And now, of course, with EVs and E85, you can spool your turbo much quicker. It seems to have changed. Everything is about torque, massive amounts of torque, area under the curve. That punching feeling in your spine is kind of what we're all after here to make those quick passes on the freeway, or if you want to just do a burnout, however you want to run your life, right? But you don't want to fall behind. So today, Austin has brought out his 335d, a car that I'd never really heard of, to be honest. So we're going to take it for a drive and see how well the diesel does here in 2023. Let's go for a drive.
Hi, my name is Austin. This is my 2011 BMW 335d M Sport, which makes it pretty rare. Starting with the engine here, we've done an ECU tune from Malone Tuning. It's a stage 2.9. So that gives 355 rear wheel horsepower and around 580 foot-pounds of torque. So it's got some jam.
All right, we're just gonna jump into this, you guys. 335d, this is a car that I had no idea existed. This was completely off the radar as it gets in my mind. But here today, this might be a great used buy. It's just for a daily, something, like I said in the intro, with meaty torque. And so when I get in a vehicle like this and I see a red line that caps at 5,000 RPM, it gets me thinking, how good is this going to be at roasting tires? And will it actually be fun to drive? Typically, diesels are not thought of as enthusiast vehicles, but in contrast, the E90 generation BMW, when you look at the E92 and E90 M3, how much of those driving characteristics carry over here. Now, the owner of this car, Austin, actually did own a 6-speed E90 4-door M3, which I just think that is the best spec for that car. First impressions, steering, so incredibly heavy. Probably the heaviest steering of any car with power steering that I've driven at lower speeds. Now that we're moving, it's lightened up a little bit. It feels almost as if it doesn't have power steering at low speeds, but it doesn't actually sound that bad. From the outside, the turbo spool is ridiculous. That's, I think, the best thing about this car is the turbo spool outside. Ridiculous, not something I would have expected. Okay, 1500 RPM, second gear. Wow, that's fully sideways there. Even in manual though, the automatic will shift up. Yeah, kick sideways, turbo spool by 3, and then what? Okay, you have 1500 RPM before you spool. Okay, it's a 6-speed auto. These were never sold, I don't believe, with a manual. Wow, that is a ton of torque. It does almost feel like an EV in the way it delivers torque. That is not an exaggeration. I would love to see the dyno graph for this car. Great looking car though. While I don't think the E90 is as timeless as the E46 in design, it is a great looking car. This car has aged brilliantly, especially, I think more so in 4-door sedan form here than the coupes.
Done some preemptive maintenance as well on the engine, harmonic balancer, swirl flap deletes. We have done EGR as well, deleted the EGR. Also, it doesn't have an SCR either, so it's just a straight through exhaust. I've also taken off the mufflers as well, so it's a straight pipe, so you got that like nice turbo whistle to it. And the funny thing is my fuel mileage actually went up as well, even though I added all this horsepower. Transmission has like a stock rebuild, so it's got like all new clutches, bushings, gaskets, new torque converter as well. The clutches on 5th gear were pretty cooked. I tried to find a company that would do like an upgraded transmission, but virtually impossible to find. So just went with the stock one. These transmissions are pretty bulletproof, so hopefully it'll be good for another, over 200,000 kilometers.
Sideways. All right, Austin was like, oh, torque seems to kind of fall off after 4,000 RPM. No, it just, I mean, to me, it pulls right to 4,500 and then around 5. Of course, by red line, it's done. You want to shift before red line for sure, but, well, you want to do that anyways, but. Wow! That's proper fast. This is a fast car. It's a good size sedan. It's a proper size sedan. And it's funny to say that because when the E90 M3 came out, very big compared to the E46, but it's aged nicely. It's aged rather well. I keep downshifting and then I gotta tell myself, hey, diesels are lazy. We can be lazy here. This, oh my God. Cat-like reflexes, that's what every diesel BMW driver needs. Yeah, that was a pucker up moment for sure. It feels like an E90 should. This, to me, a 2011 vehicle is still like new. That's how my weird mind works. But this feels and has modern handling characteristics in a good way. It's still got mechanical feel to it, but we've got modern torque, insane speed, just ridiculous acceleration, and good fuel economy when you're not in boost, which we are because, I mean, when or if Austin goes bigger turbo on this, I would have a tendency to want to upgrade the brakes. That would be my go-to. It needs, you know, the brake feel is good. It feels like it has enough brakes, but it's not a whole ton of confidence there. It's a nice sized car, but I think it's still a heavy car. I think these weigh about 3,800 pounds. That's a lot. In my mind now, compared to modern, that was on purpose. Compared to a modern car, yeah, you could say it's light. But when compared to other cars of this era that are enthusiast cars, it is a little bit heavy. God, it's so fun.
So we got roof racks on the car. The latest haul on that was a Christmas tree. And then I put a hitch on it this summer. So small hitch, but I got a utility trailer so I can, you know, pretty much haul anything with it. So that's, I think, part of the reason why the transmission got cooked. I was towing my motorbike on like a kind of 4 or 5 hour journey, and I think I was driving a little bit too fast up the hills and really utilizing that 580 foot-pounds of torque, and I think that may have cooked it. The car does have a few miles on it, so let's just say it's the miles and not my driving.
I like that, yeah. What do we have for suspension?
Yeah, so the suspension is nothing too crazy. I'm on a drop spring on the car. I think it's about an inch or so drop front and back. And then it's got Bilstein shocks on it as well. And then recently I noticed a bit of play kind of in the front end of it when I would go to hit the brakes. So I ended up doing a brand new control arm kit, the same control arm kit that would be used on like the same generation of M3. So that would be E90 generation. So the bushings went from, I think they were like rubber and fluid filled to solid rubber. And so the car is just super tight now. And it added a bit of negative camber on the front and the back, so it does sit a little better as well. Okay, so one of the things I forgot to mention was that I actually just put a limited slip differential in the back. It was a one tire fire before, so any time that any snow would come here, the car would just be virtually useless. It's got the same gear ratio from factory, so get a little bit more traction. Might be better for drifting, I don't know. These are the stock M Sport wheels, right from BMW, and they're awesome. I mean, I have no reason to change them.
My God, the crushing torque in my spine is just a feeling that will never get old. Everything still feels tight and taut. It's stiff, but it's not too stiff. It's still very compliant, still absolutely daily drivable here. There's more road noise here than there would be in a new BMW, but it's smooth. And the steering rack is nice and quick. I mean, it feels like something like an R33 or R34 Skyline. As soon as you lose traction, there's no room because the RPMs come at you really quick. The red line approaches very quick. So you have to be, I mean, lightning quick if you leave it in manual.
E90 M3. That car definitely will hold a special place in my heart. Had it for, I think, maybe a couple of years. And awesome car. So it had the 4-liter V8 in it, and it would just rev for days. Awesome car, but it drank fuel. And I like to use my cars as dailies. So that's ultimately what I wanted. And I was just going to the gas station way too much. So I ended up selling that. I went EV. And
how dare you?
Yeah. Planning on keeping this car for a while. You never know, you know, kind of what comes up. But put a little bit of money into it, put a little bit of time into it, and yeah, it's a utilitarian. You can kind of use it for everything.
Really cool too, actually. While we're behind this truck, Austin's done this really great integrated Android head unit here. And I think this is the first aftermarket head unit like this that we can watch YouTube on and stuff like that, that's connected to the factory iDrive toggle switch here. All the buttons down here, I can run through the system with the factory controls. That to me is really cool. That's a really good aftermarket integration. Everything here is very sleeper. Also kind of insane after 200,000 kilometers, how well this interior is held up. Soft touch dash, which is awesome. We've got some aftermarket speakers in here, wood grain, and traction's off, and it still won't allow me to hold gears. I don't like that. I don't like that. That it automatically shifts up. I don't know. You guys tell me if you have experience with these cars. Tell me if there's a way that I can make this not shift up, even though I want control. BMW, I want control. It's a 2011 vehicle. I thought we still had control back then. No? All right. It kind of rev matches, but it takes its time. It's not expecting you to want the downshift when you actually want it. It's like, oh, I'm gonna serve this up whenever I feel like it, not when the driver wants it. So it doesn't do everything that I want it to do when I want it to do it, but it's pretty close.
Virtually stock on the inside. I've put in, retrofitted in like a touchscreen navigation unit. So it's an Android-based system. So I can run CarPlay on it. It's a mini computer inside your car. So that's really kind of brought the technology up to date, and you know, gives me another reason to want to keep this car for the long term. Do
you blame your Tesla ownership for wanting you to bring in all this, like, oh, I can watch videos on my screen while I'm parked?
You know
play
what?
Games or whatever?
No, I actually found that stuff very distracting on the Tesla. Like everything on that is on the one screen on the Tesla, which, you know, at the start it's really cool, and then when you're trying to go through, you have to go through 2 or 3 pages to get to your windshield wipers or whatever you need to. It does get a bit distracting. So, you know, this car is really nice because it has a lot of buttons, and you know, it seems like the car industry is going away from buttons and touchscreens. So sort of have the buttons, a little bit of tech, and you know, it just gives me what I need.
100%.
So.
Yeah, bring back buttons. I like it.
Bring back buttons.
Yeah. Last thing, what radar are you running? Just as an aside.
So my the radar system I run is an Escort Redline, and I actually just got it over the summer, and it's done its job. So I run that along with Waze on my Apple CarPlay, and so you sort of have 2 detection systems, and it's all legal.
Awesome, so, smart.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Austin. That's great.
Great.
Yeah, is this era peak BMW? I don't know. I mean, as far as how this vehicle is held up, it's not far off. It's not far off. I mean, if you're like me and you enjoy mechanical gauges, a real gauge cluster, this is basically the last. And it just, you know what? It just works. This is a workhorse BMW. All right, you guys. Yeah, that's it. 335d. Yeah, thanks for watching. This was Austin's car. You can go, actually, no, I was gonna say you can go check him out on Instagram. The man has no social media, so that's not a problem. Thanks, guys, for watching. We'll see you soon.